Good afternoon, everyone. It is David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office for Sunday, July the 9th, 2023 at 1:06 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. In this update, we are going to give you a detailed discussion and update on the very dangerous to extreme heat wave that is going to be cooking the desert Southwest, including for California, as we could have temperatures between 110 to as high as 120 degrees. Death Valley might even get close to 128 degrees, especially for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So here's a detailed look at the European model for Sunday afternoon, July the 9th, 2023. And this is what we have going on right now. Quite a bit of rain, flooding, severe weather going on across the eastern seaboard, including for the Northeast for today. We got showers and thunderstorms going on also for Arkansas, for eastern Oklahoma, for northern Louisiana, northeastern Texas, getting some showers, some thunderstorms, part of a weather disturbance that is actually moving towards the east around this upper level low and surface low disturbance over Hudson Bay, bringing cooler weather to the region. So that's the nice thing about these weather systems is they bring down temperatures as it could otherwise be extremely hot, right? With what the desert Southwest will be facing for the second half of this week. So now going forward into tomorrow afternoon, there is that same low. Look at that curly Q shape here, an indication that the system is fairly organized with that surface low. Showers, thunderstorms continuing each afternoon across the southeast and the northeast as we have instability in place. That warm, moist air coming off the Atlantic, meeting up with that cold air aloft, going to destabilize things. But look at this, across the west, looking pretty dry with that really intense sun. It's going to make things really, really hot. Now let's go into a Tuesday and Wednesday. Another disturbance wants to kind of move southeastward here across the plains, bringing more chances of severe weather, maybe some large hail chances too, along to go with an isolated tornado with these storms. And then by Thursday, by Friday, we're going to get back into where we get more storms out here across the central plains, the northern plains. Again, some of these could contain some intense winds, hail, and a tornado. Even a little bit of an outflow boundary right here. Part of that thunderstorm, maybe some storms here are going to cause that outflow and help to cause some upscale growth for Friday. That's July the 14th. And then July the 15th, we got more thunderstorm chances here across Tennessee, across the southeast, including for the upper Midwest, like the Great Lakes. Going to see more shower chances here. But notice how I did not mention much about the Intermountain West here, because it's going to be extremely hot, but it also will be extremely dry too. So we're not going to see any thunderstorm chances at all for the next several days, I'm afraid to say, and that's going to lead to some high fire danger on top of the very hot, dry conditions. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than this. So now, for much of this video, we're going to be spending a lot of our time looking at the high plains, the Midwest, the high plains, that is, the desert Southwest, also for California and the Pacific Northwest, because this is where our heat is going to be residing. This is going to be making a lot of headlines from the Weather Channel, probably from local news stations. I know San Francisco Chronicle has been talking about it, as well as New York Times might be talking about this in days to come. Because this is a pretty serious situation that we could be facing, especially by Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We could be talking about temperatures, folks, in some areas that could approach or breach 120 degrees. Death Valley might even make a run for 125 plus degrees, might even get close to 130 there for Saturday and Sunday. So, yeah, we're talking some serious heat. So let's look at the forecast here on our friendly GFS model. This is the global forecasting system. So this is kind of showing us what might happen based on the current conditions and how hot it might get. So we can see here, this is for Sunday, this afternoon. We can see temperatures down here across Arizona, Tucson, Phoenix, Arizona, Palm Springs, about 105, 107 degrees today. Pretty hot down there, but not as hot as it's about to get. For southern Texas, about 100 to 105 degrees. Even for the Midwest here, cooler than average temperatures, but that doesn't mean it's cold. Just means you're not going to see temperatures as warm as you could for this time of the year. So you're seeing temperatures in the low to mid 80s. Look at this up here. That's Kennewick. That's in Washington, Oregon border. About 102 for your daytime high. So that's pretty hot for today. Let's go forward though. However, it's nice to see these overnight lows come down too. 50s, some 40s out there across the Cascades of Washington, Oregon. So at least when it gets very hot, it gets rather cool at night. So that's some good news about the heat that we're dealing with early on in the cycle. But tomorrow, same deal here. 106, 108 degrees across Tucson, Phoenix, as well as Las Vegas. Might make a run for 105. Palm Springs, Needles, if you're down here in westernmost Arizona, 107 degrees. Cathedral City might make a run for 104, 105 tomorrow. But also pay attention to the higher elevations here, like in Salt Lake City, maybe even for Park City, Utah, might even get close to 90. It's pretty warm for an elevation at around 5 to 7,000 feet. That means the air mass is warming up. When the things warm up like that, you're able to warm up the air nicely in the lower levels. Temperatures in the 90s in California. And then we're going to fast forward this. Temperatures stay the same. You do warm it up more significantly on Wednesday. So you can see 107 to 111 degrees. But it's going to get hotter than this, folks. I mean, I'm not trying to hype this up, folks. I'm not here to scare you all, to cause fear-mongering. I mean, heat is just as dangerous as flooding, as Arctic temperatures. Your body cannot adapt very well to such hot temperatures like this. And so we do have to talk about it, because it's better if I talk about it than I don't. Then a lot of you might not take this seriously. It's about 106 degrees in central Texas. Look at this, 105 near Kansas City for the middle of next week, July the 12th. But look at this. This is when it gets a little more dangerous. This is Thursday, 114 degrees down here in the desert southwest of Phoenix, Arizona. Las Vegas, 109 degrees. Palm Springs, probably 115 degrees. Even so it's not explicitly shown on the GFS, the GFS2 is not a high-resolution model. So we have to kind of take that into consideration, that it might get more than what this is showing, 105 to 115 degrees. But look at this, 108 to 110 degrees in, say, Oklahoma, in Texas, like Abilene, Texas, maybe 108. If you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, maybe 106, 107, maybe even 110. Down there across southern Texas. Not as hot as it's been in the past, but still, it is hot here. It is pretty warm down here. Central Valley, like Bakersfield, Fresno, Visalia, might hit 107. Redding, Chico, maybe 105, 107 on Thursday. Friday is kind of game on. It's kind of just, the heat's going to get thrown at us. About 114, maybe 118 degrees here in the desert southwest, 108 degrees in Texas. But look at this. Central Valley locations above 110 degrees region-wide, not just in Bakersfield or Fresno, but maybe places like Stockton, Galt, Lodi, Sacramento, 113 over here in Redding. Pretty dangerous, okay? We've been used to seeing these temperatures now after our early July heat wave. We got back down into the 80s, still sitting at low 70s today. So we're probably only going to see upper 70s in some portions of the valley today. Then we turn the heat on and it gets up to 111 like this, folks. This is when your body doesn't adapt very quickly and very well to this. And look at this, 119 degrees up here, or down here across the Central Valley, 117, 114 maybe for Phoenix, Arizona. Death Valley, not shown here, but maybe 120 degrees. It's your daytime high. That is pretty brutal for your Saturday. This is July the 15th, by the way. July the 16th, 120 degrees over here in Fresno. 124 shown on the GFS model for Death Valley. Yeah, for the GFS to show this, it might get over that. Might hit 125, 126. 110 up here across Oregon and Washington. Even the higher elevations here in the Great Basin, 105 degrees. They're at 5,000 feet, by the way. So you're going to see temperatures well over 35 Celsius during the day to show you just how hot this air mass actually is. And it's going to really pose a lot of dangers. This is not just on the operational GFS, but when we actually look at the ensemble forecast from the global forecasting system, the ensemble. So we're taking a lot of these members and we're averaging things out on what most of the members actually show. And so most of the members do indicate that temperatures could be 112 to 115 degrees, which means the chances of you hitting 115 seems pretty likely at this point, including for Palm Springs. We'll probably certainly hit 115 on Thursday. About 105 to 107 on most of the ensembles on the GFS or GEFS, that is, across California. Look at this. 116. Look at this. This is pretty serious on the ensemble. This is Friday. 111. My goodness, that's from the ensemble forecast. And then 113 to 115 over Fresno, Bakersfield, maybe Stockton down here. That's pretty ironic, okay, for the ensemble to show this. The peak temperature, the plot down here across Palm Springs might eclipse 117 degrees and maybe even going 119 degrees. This is the ensemble, folks, on Sunday. Whew, we're going to be very hot, very desolate for our on these days, and hopefully some relief comes in on Monday next week. Temperatures trending downward. Now, I did not show you all the European ensemble forecasts. Why not? Let's take a look at that. We're going to go all the way back to, say, this is for Saturday. You see 110, 111, 115, 117 over here, and just pretty brutal. In fact, even away from that, in, say, places like Las Vegas, Nevada, if you're in the Rockies here, some of the Wasatch Front here might even have 100+ degree temperatures at an elevation of 5,000 feet. The European ensemble, look at this, 114, 111 away from the Delta. The Death Valley region, 121 being forecasted by the European ensemble. And remember, we have 51 members that run this. So this gets my attention quite quickly when you think about it. So now, what are the chances of temperatures exceeding 110 degrees? This is what this map actually shows, right? So just kind of think about probabilities here. There's a better chance of you hitting 100 in areas that have a higher chance of reaching 110, if that makes sense. So this is the next 84 hours. So these areas right here, you have a 50 to 80% chance of reaching 110 degrees. Okay, this is for Wednesday, July the 12th, and there's a 100% chance. So that means you're probably going to exceed 110 and might even eclipse 115. But let's look at the chances here by Thursday. Yeah, the Central Valley now gets in play here with a 20% chance of reaching 110 degrees or higher on Thursday, but most likely here in the desert Southwest, we have the better chances. But it's not until we get into Friday when this gets more widespread. The valley now, Central Valley that is, Stanislaus Valley, Northern Sacramento Valley, 60% chance of reaching 110 degrees, 100% chance of reaching 110 degrees down here in southeastern California, including for southwestern Arizona. Now, look how widespread this gets. This is pretty ironic, okay? This is for Saturday, July the 15th. Look at all these red colors here. This indicates fairly likelihood scenario that temperatures will exceed 110 degrees. Just showing you the 110 or the chances of 100+ degrees. Look at this, pretty widespread, including just east of Reno might likely hit that. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is temperatures will reach the criteria needed for a moderate to extreme heat risks. And we'll show you the heat risk impact map here in just a little bit, but pretty serious. So now, why is it going to get so hot? What are we going to see? What is the pattern going to do? Okay, so instead of looking at the surface, we like to look above the surface at 500 millibars, which is about 18,000 feet above the surface. If you can keep the 500 millibar level fixed, static, without it going up or down, because the atmosphere is fluid after all, and the air mass changes do fluctuate that isotope. So when we take a look here, or isotherm, I should say, kind of spit that wrong word out. But look at what we have. So this trough right here and this trough over here across the west coast, right? That is keeping this ridge over New Mexico, over Texas, right? You can even follow my mouse here where the warmest air is, the subtropical desert hot dome of air, kind of outlined here in pink, okay? So when we go forward in time, this ridge is going to sneak this way. So it's going to go towards California and then eventually might go a little further up to the north. Now, the reason why this happens is because we got, number one, the player of the field here is we got a trough that is going to dig down. It's kind of off, half of it's off the map, but it's going to drop down into the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, including Hudson Bay, followed by a little bit of a ridge here. And then there's going to be another trough that sneaks on by here. Okay, so during the day tomorrow, the ridge, the heights build a little bit. Okay, but the ridge overall doesn't. That's why tomorrow we're not going to go for 95 to 100 degrees. Instead, we're probably going to be in the mid to upper 80s tomorrow. Now, interestingly enough, despite this trough to dip down or to kind of move eastward into the Pacific Northwest, the overall synoptic flow pattern here is not in such that this trough is able to kind of dig further southeast, right? Because now once this ridge tries to bubble and it's able to have its gravitational force be able to back build, we call it, this trough is not able to move southeast. So this trough, then it has to move either northeast. Sorry, there's a truck. Some crop dusters outside. I hate them. They're pretty annoying this time of the year. Probably taking the advantage of the cooler weather. But this ridge right here, this hot dome, you can already start to see the 588 decameter height line here, contour. Okay, so this is Tuesday. During the day Tuesday, we kind of stay the same on Wednesday because this ridge has not been able to move further north or further west, right? We still have this troughy traffic to the north that is still going to keep this ridge at bay, kind of keep it squashed, if you will. So the hotter weather stays east of us on Tuesday or on Wednesday too. We get into the mid to upper 90s, but we should stay safe from any triple digits. If we hit maybe 100, we'll do it briefly, maybe for an hour or so. But when we get into Thursday is when this trough gets absorbed into the large-scale trough, into the northern plains, into, say, central Canada, and we get a large-scale, what we call a highly amplitude ridge that builds on here. And so what that's going to do, now we go from 588 to 591 to now 594 decameters. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with what this means, but it's simply height in the atmosphere. So 594 decameters is 5,940 meters. So the 500 millibar level is about 5,940 meters above the surface at that particular pressure point. Okay, and so usually when you get hotter air, the air is more thicker, it's more denser, it's able to heat up more. You get thicker heights here, or higher geopotential heights. This is measured in decameters. But look at this. By Saturday, yeah, look at this. Yeah, by Saturday, this ridge is really strong. 597, some of them runs previously showed even 600 decameters. That's 6,000 meters where the 500 millibar height or contour would be found if you go kind of vertically into the atmosphere. And so what I'm trying to show you all is that this ridge is going to be quite strong when we get a trough that dips into the northern plains that allows this ridge to kind of back build, we call it, or forward flank building or back flank building in other words. So another perimeter that I like to use too is the 850 millibar temperatures. And some of you were probably asking me, why does this matter, right? Because when you think about it, when we get hotter air aloft, all right, the mixing ratio thickness is actually lower, lower because there's more compression. So what we get here is, if you look at a skew T sounding, right? I'm going to draw this up here. We're going to look at a sounding in Sacramento Executive Airport in the Central Valley. And so our 850 millibar level is actually located right here. Yeah, right there is where the apex of that is. And so when I keep this line here, you'll notice what happens here when we get into this heat wave. Pay attention to this. I'm going to circle this in, or box this in red. Right here. Right there, okay? Watch that line move to the right. See how the temperatures actually warm up aloft? So what that does is, when you get solar heating during the day, you're able to mix this inversion out much quicker. So the temperatures actually warm up more quicker when you have warmer air aloft like this. So you're able to mix that inversion out to the dry adiabatic lapse rate, usually by late afternoon when we reach our peak temperatures. And you can see that inversion there early on. And then look at how warm these temperatures get. This is for Wednesday. And this is for Wednesday. Too bad I can't go any further out in time with this. But what you're going to see eventually, as we get closer, is we're going to see temperatures here go straight up on the skew here, probably approaching somewhere over here. So this red line is going to move much further to the right. So warmer overnight lows, we're going to warm things up very, very quickly once we get into the thick of this heat wave. So that's what this illustrates. So going forward, you can see how the warmer air moves in by Friday and Saturday, approaching 31 Celsius across the valley during the day Saturday, July the 16th, that is. It might even get a little warmer, 33 Celsius. Could bring temperatures well over 115 degrees. So see how important this is? This kind of declarates where this ridge actually is, this hot dome of hotter air. That's basically what these ridges are. It's kind of air being trapped. It's able to warm up nicely because these temperatures in the low levels are able to warm up. So kind of emphasizing, we're going to see some really warmer air moving in from the desert southwest, and that's going to raise a lot of concerns for some serious heat. I know this video's going a lot too long, but I want to be as detailed as I can so you guys learn something. You guys have asked me that, or complimented on how detailed my videos are, so I felt like I need to make this one a little bit more detailed. Another product that I like to use is the heat risk product, and if we go forward here, by the way, this is from the CDC, okay? The CDC means Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Let's go into Tuesday here. Wednesday, see the orange and the reds, that's major heat risk. And let's go into Friday. Let's go into Saturday. See this right here? We got major and moderate heat risk down here across the desert southwest. But look at the valley. We're seeing major heat risk. Some of these isolated areas have extreme heat risk. So if we click on that right there, it'll even pop up with the forecast. Yeah, 122 there. Let's see Death Valley. Let's see how hot Death Valley might end up getting. Yeah, 127 degrees on the National Weather Service on Saturday. Might even go for almost 130 if that actually comes true. So we got to really watch that. Very, very hot. You know it. You're going to feel it. But you know, that's all that I really have for this discussion, folks. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing, sharing this with your family and friends on social media. Just to review with what we talked about, the heat's coming across the west. We got cooler, more severe weather chances for the Midwest, for the Great Lakes, including for the Northeast, because that trophy-like weather. But when we get troughs like this that dig down, kind of like this, we get amplified ridging that wants to back build across the west and bring us the very warm temperatures. So kind of emphasizing hot weather comes on Thursday, especially more widespread triple digits, really on Friday, and Saturday is really when it hits the fan. We get temperatures over 110, 115 for for a few days, maybe a few more after that for the Central Valley. Something to keep in mind if you're doing anything next weekend, making plans to go to the rivers, like if you're going to Cosumnes River, Sacramento River, if you're going to Lake Orville, if you're going to, say, Placer or Folsom Lake, if you're going to any of the lakes here in California, keep in mind the water is going to be still in the upper 30s, mid 40s. So hypothermia will set in very quickly despite temperatures at being over 110 degrees. Remember, the rivers are running fast, very swift because of the snow melt. So if you're doing anything outdoors for next weekend, just keep that in mind. People are going to want to hit the rivers and the lakes because it's going to be too hot. But just remember, there's also dangers of being in cold water. That is it for this video, everyone, in the weather office for Sunday, July the 9th. Have a fantastic rest of your day. I should be back in tomorrow with another update on this oppressive heat coming.